Hello, and welcome to another episode of From the Goat Up. I'm Karen Minsky. Today, I'm being joined by Dr. Molly McBride. She's a gynecologist in New York City who specializes in menopause and perimenopause health. This is something that is truly personal to me, and I'm sure a lot of other women. And so I'm so excited for her to join us and really help us tackle this topic as well as everything that we are feeling. Join me. Welcome to From the Goat Up, where we talk about ambition, motherhood, business, and what it really takes to earn your seat at the table. Dr. Molly McBride, founder of SLAN New York City, delivers sophisticated, comprehensive gynecological services with a profound commitment to holistic well-being. Her expertise extends to medical weight loss, menopause management, and mastering the art of healthy aging. Molly, I am so excited to talk to you today. I am personally and emotionally affected every day by perimenopause, leading into menopause. And so this conversation is really personal to me, and I know so many of our viewers are also dealing with it. So I'm really excited to have you on. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to educate and get the word out about this important topic.
Sure. So I feel like let's start with the definitions. Can you help us understand what is perimenopause versus menopause?
It's a good question because I think the definitions have been all over the place, particularly with perimenopause, because it's so difficult to characterize. It can start anywhere from 35 to 55. It can be 4 months before menopause. It can be 10 years before menopause. So it's really at the point when your hormones start fluctuating, when your ovaries aren't producing as much of the hormones that they should, but I kind of call perimenopause the zone of chaos because the hormones can be up or normal for 2 months, and then the progesterone can drop, the estrogen can drop. So it's a really confusing time for most women because there is no consistency. The classic menopause definition is 1 year, no periods. However, that's a classic textbook definition. We don't wait 1 year to initiate treatment. So I think you have to take it all the standard definitions with a grain of salt because research hasn't updated much in the way of perimenopause and menopause over the last few years.
Yeah, no, I think that's really insightful. And then just can you talk a little bit about, what symptoms typically occur that I think as myself, I didn't even know that I was in perimenopause because you don't know. So just to kind of shed some light on what women could do.
Yeah, I would say that's really common, and women are often dismissed about their symptoms because they aren't clear cut. I would say one of the first things that happens is heightened anxiety, heart racing. You're not normally an anxious person, and all of a sudden you're more anxious, and it's physical. You can feel it. Sometimes it's lack of sleep. That's another one of the first things. It's not sleeping. I would say the overall overriding statement is, I just don't feel like myself. And you have to listen when someone says that. You're not sleeping, you're anxious, you're edgy, you're reactive when you're not used to being that way. You feel really out of control. And I think standardly women have been dismissed with those symptoms and given an antidepressant or something that's not appropriate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it feels like very unpredictable, right? So, and it's hard to recognize. And so, I mean, I guess, how far, I guess I can just talk out of my own experience. I feel like I was way in it. And then all of a sudden I said, this is wrong. Something is not right. I am not an anxious person. And to your point, I became anxious. I sleep like a baby at night. I am not sleeping. My skin started feeling differently, my hair. My whole body, I just felt like I was in a foreign body. And
bloating.
Yeah. And then that transition was just, until it was oh, this is what's happening. Until that click happened, I was kind of like, everybody,
what's wrong with me?
What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you acting that way? And so, I guess is there something you can do to like try to recognize them a little bit sooner? Or because I don't know if I can make a doctor listen.
Well, but I think these days now you almost have to go in educated, unfortunately. You have to go in with a checklist of things, It's not always, you still may be getting regular periods and you may have what's considered normal labs. But if your symptoms are significant, you really need to press to be heard. And this has been such a huge problem in women's healthcare. And I think the system is difficult now. Doctors have 15 minutes to talk to you. It's a broader topic. A lot of them weren't educated in this through medical school and residency. So I think doctors are struggling too. They need to really take time to educate themselves about this because it's so important. I mean, you can really lose confidence and really think, what the heck is wrong with me? And there are people that can't function at their jobs. And I always say this is kind of the most complicated time in your life and you're the least capable of handling it. That's not fair. And you shouldn't have to press to say, I don't feel good. I'm anxious. I'm not sleeping. My body's different. My skin's different. But I think if you go in and say, I feel there may be a hormonal component to this. Can you guide me through this? Or do you know someone who can? I think you really have to stick up for yourself to say, I'm not right. And you need to investigate why. And really, even if labs are normal, you have to listen to the symptoms. There are things you can do. And it's not just about your symptoms. It's also about long-term health. There was just a big study that says if you intervene with hormone replacement therapy in the perimenopausal period, you reduce your cardiovascular risk by 60%. So that's huge because that's still the number one killer of women. So, and the earlier you have menopause, the worse your long-term cardiac risk is. And there are certain even things in pregnancy that people don't talk about. People who had preeclampsia or had gestational diabetes, that can impact your health heading into perimenopause and menopause. So recognizing this early and treating it early is really important to your long-term health. Not to mention the symptoms you're having and how you're getting through your day. It's really a health issue too. So, I mean, that's why we're really trying to get the word out to women to empower themselves because often they're not listened to.
I agree with you. I mean, I did feel like, I personally went into my doctor a few times and I'm like, oh, I don't feel good here, and there. And then they did my blood work. And then he would say, well, your blood work's fine. You're probably just off, or maybe you're depressed. I'm like, I'm depressed.
No, it's not your fault. No,
I know this is not something that's like, innately like part of who I am. So it was just interesting. So, one thing that I feel like is really hard for women to understand is the difference between like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And I think they're all very important and they play a part, obviously. Are you able to kind of just give us like a little bit of an education of like the three and like what they do for you and like why or how they're affected during this time?
Estrogen is one of the biggest things that we produce, and almost everything in your body has estrogen receptors. So it affects cholesterol regulation. It affects dementia. It affects your brain. It affects your bones. So lack of estrogen is what leads to osteoporosis. It's what leads a lot to heart disease. It's what leads to dementia and Alzheimer's in a lot of new studies. So estrogen is really critical. But what happens in perimenopause, the first thing is that there's an imbalance. So you can go through an estrogen dominant phase, and the progesterone is there for a lot of things. One of the big things is it stabilizes your lining. So that sort of helps with regular periods. It also can affect mood and sleep. So often the very first phase of perimenopause, the estrogen is dominant, and that's causing your edginess, your anxiety when the progesterone's low. And it can sometimes be the classic perimenopause bleeding pattern of people either skipping a period or bleeding 2 weeks at a time or bleeding 3 weeks at a time. That's a sure sign your progesterone's probably low. So that's why I say symptoms are sort of more important than actually what the labs show. And if you look at the labs really closely and you know where the patient is in their cycle, you can glean information from them. It's certainly not impossible. Testosterone is very interesting because you make as much testosterone in your lifetime as you do estrogen and progesterone, and it's just often dismissed completely. So when you lose testosterone, it affects not just libido. Everybody thinks about testosterone and libido. It's not just libido. It's also energy, cognition, mood. So replacement of that is also equally important. But unfortunately, there are about 30 preparations on the market for men. There are no approved testosterone prescriptions for women on the market at this point. So nothing that's covered by insurance. It has to be compounded often, or you have to use alternative routes, which are not FDA approved. So it's always doesn't feel great, but it's the only option we have, is really to compound it.
Wow.
And there's been a lot of push now at the FDA.
Yeah. So from a symptom perspective, I feel like there's a lot of inconsistencies from like week to week, which I think is where the confusion also comes, right? Like this week I'm sleeping great, but like last week I was up at 3 a.m. every single day. So I'm also maybe attributing some of it to, working, right? Or stress. And so that's another reason why women dismiss some of the symptoms. Why are there
Right.
inconsistencies?
Well, because the hormones during perimenopause, which really is the hardest time, they're fluctuating dramatically within the month and month to month. You might feel really good the first half of your cycle, and then the second half of your cycle, you might have the symptoms because that's when progesterone's starting to go down. So I think people could sort of track their symptoms try to notice, when are you feeling that? When are you not? Is it the second half of the cycle? There are certain times we can give people just progesterone to take the second half of the cycle. Maybe it's not going to make you 100% better, but it's going to make you 85% better and really help. I think the care needs to be really customized too through menopause. It is not one size fits all. And perimenopause is really the hardest thing because the array of symptoms is everything you experience from stress and work. But I would say don't attribute it to that. Most likely, if you're in this age range and you're feeling these symptoms, they're probably hormonally based to some level, no matter what. So I think have confidence that you're not crazy and there is something hormonally based going on, but it does fluctuate dramatically. That's why I say it's the zone of chaos. In between the month, it can fluctuate, and month to month, it can fluctuate. Many people are fine for 2 months. Then their period is 6 weeks, not right on track, and they feel terrible. But then the next month, it's normal again. So when I think women are we're trying to take care of everyone and everything. We're working, and we blame ourselves a lot of time. Well, I just didn't get enough sleep. Well, I'm tired. I'm too stressed. Believe in yourself, and I want to try to validate what you're feeling, and what you're saying is real, and it should be listened to and investigated and treatments attempted. But it is a very hard time to treat because it's like catching a falling star. It's not consistent month to month or week to week.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. If you were to tell someone, here is like the first sign that you're probably going through or starting perimenopause, and they are they may be dealing with an array and they don't know, like, what is
Right.
like is there one specific one that you would say this is probably what you're experiencing first at different levels, at some level, that you should just be like, oh, let me consider? Is there something, or not really?
I think increased anxiety, lack of sleep, edgy mood.
Okay.
Out of your norm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have all three. I'm diagnosed.
I mean, you probably do. You probably do.
Yeah.
And I think I so want women to feel like it's not your fault. Like, this is chemical. This is hormones doing this. So speak up. And it's really hard to find the right person. Really hard. It's why I started this business, because I didn't find enough people, even in New York City, focusing on this. And I really care about women and getting through this. I mean, people in menopause are leaving their jobs, are leaving their husbands, their mental health is worse. It's so important. And it's such a huge transition. It's like the bulk of the middle of our life. You really have to be listened to and treated. And there are great treatments out there.
Have you heard of any treatments where you're feeling like people are probably wasting their money just because of lack of education or support from a medical doctor? Do people gravitate towards anything?
Supplements. There's a lot on the market right now. I think this is starting to become more of a conversation finally. And I see a lot of online, and I think people are preying on women who don't know what to do and they're desperate. And the majority of the supplements that are out there, first of all, they're not regulated, they're not tested. And generally, most of the studies on them show no significant effect. So women are desperate and they're ordering a ton of these things that have no data, no backing, and are expensive. And they're being taken advantage of because most of them do not work. And they could be dangerous because they're not regulated. So you don't know what's in them. You don't know if it could react with something else you're taking. So I think you have to be careful. I'm not saying all supplements are bad, but you should be careful and don't waste your money.
Something that was really insightful before. You said not everyone is the same. So maybe a supplement for me is not the right supplement for someone else, or vice versa. So we're just kind of buying it off the shelf. We have no idea how our body is going to react. So
we'll react to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so what do you think are treatments or approaches that are underutilized that are genuinely effective that people should consider when they are starting out or dealing with some of these things?
Well, the gold standard is hormone replacement therapy. And now there are very good options that are covered by insurance and on the market. And there are topical, there are oral, there are many different configurations. Again, people have, because of that Women's Health Initiative study 30 years ago, a whole generation lost out on healthcare. And there's still so much worry over hormone replacement therapy. It does not cause breast cancer. The types that we're using these days don't cause breast cancer and can actually really help your health, like I said, by preventing heart disease. We think dementia. There's a big study going on to see estrogen linked to Alzheimer's. We used to think women got Alzheimer's more often because they live longer. Now we think there's probably an estrogen component. So I think dispelling the fear of hormone replacement therapy and getting educated about it. But it's hard. There's not a lot of good information out there, and a lot of doctors are still worried about it and not up to date. So the struggle's real.
Yeah, I mean, I will say to you, someone who's dealing with it, and I've actually been approached and said, "Oh, would you want to consider?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know," because I grew up. My mother was like, "No, you have to drink soy milk. You have to eat sweet potatoes. You have to have hummus. These are the things that are going to help you naturally. Stay away from that. Otherwise, you're bringing on a whole slew of cancer and other problems." And so, who would ever
it's the opposite
thing into your body, right? But that's the stigma around it, and
it is.
And there is there's such a lack of education, and no one's really talking about how it's actually not like that. I mean, and think about all the supplements and everything that we put into our body, and we're
not regulated.
And they're not regulated. 30 pills, but this one thing, no.
That is FDA approved and does not cause breast cancer. But that study was so poorly done, different ingredients, completely different, and it really harmed women. It was very harmful.
So let me ask you, if I don't have you, for whatever reason, I couldn't find you, I didn't know about you, and I am struggling to get my doctor to listen to me. He or she are just, dismissing me. My labs are great, whatever. What can I do to get them to listen, or do I just need to keep looking for other doctors until I find one that listens?
If you go in with your list and your concerns and you're educated, and maybe we can even sort of put up a list for people to take into their doctors with some bullet points to talk about. I think you have to challenge them a bit and say, who's to say I'm not in perimenopause? Who's to say I don't need hormone therapy right now? And if they're really resistant, which many of them are, then you need to move on. There are people out there, but it's not as easy to find.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would 100% agree with you. And I love the idea of putting a list together, because I think that just again, don't you sometimes want to look at a list and be like, oh my God, I have all of these things. I'm not crazy. Like that validity, I think alone would also help.
I would say that's one of my biggest satisfactions when someone comes into me teary, my marriage is not great, I'm snapping at my kids, I'm not focused at work, I'm falling apart. And when I validate their symptoms and say there are ways to treat them, I mean, we're both teary. Everybody just needs validation that it's something chemical and you're not crazy. And women are being told they're crazy or there's nothing wrong, but there generally is.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with you. Okay, so talking a little bit about, some specific symptoms. So skin, I will speak from personal experience. My skin has definitely changed during this perimenopause process. The dry skin is out of control.
Yeah.
I feel like there's bugs crawling on me at night. I'm itchy all over. So what can women do to offset, some of these things? Or are they all like, no, if you do hormone therapy, like a lot of these other things are going to go away?
It's true. That is lack of estrogen. When your estrogen starts to drop, people even get like itching ears, itching skin all over, like you're talking about, extremely dry. So that skin changes are due to decreased estrogen.
Then
So,
like my next, sorry.
Okay. Yep.
So I feel like the next one, right? Everyone is like,
absolutely.
I'm gaining weight. I used to be able to exercise and control my diet, and now like nothing is working.
Nothing works.
What's going on?
That is my standard patient. Most of my patients are eating right, exercising, and the weight just keeps coming because, again, your whole metabolism changes as you lose estrogen. So what happens is insulin resistance. So your insulin levels change. The insulin resistance gets worse, meaning your body isn't processing carbohydrates and sugar and fats as well as it used to. So your whole metabolism is chemically changed. And the weight gain tends to come around the middle, the visceral fat, which is not just annoying to you to look at, it's unhealthy. So your metabolism changes completely. I mean, it essentially stops moving. And, weight training is very helpful. I would encourage people to lift heavy weights carefully with help, because building muscle actually helps your metabolism. So there's muscle loss when you lose estrogen, that happens too. So weight training, everyone knows to focus on more protein, and changing sometimes how you eat throughout the day, making sure your first meal is protein forward and you have protein with every meal, and try not to have carbohydrates till later in the night. All of those things, but you can do all of that and it's going to be really hard to move the needle.
So talk to me a little bit about, GLP-1s are like the big thing in the country, really in the world right now. Everybody is like, is this something that I should be doing? What are your thoughts about GLP-1 and then women who are going through this and are really having a hard time?
It's really been a miracle for my perimenopausal and menopausal women. I call it a health tool. It's a health tool because we're not just using it for the weight loss for the most part with my menopausal women. I'm using it to reduce their cardiovascular risk, to improve their dementia and Alzheimer's risk. It gets rid of inflammation. We think that it's going to prevent certain cancers that are weight related, breast and colon. There's a study now where they're using GLP-1s in breast cancer patients to see if it prevents recurrence because it's preventing inflammation. There are so many studies coming out about the health benefits of this. So that's my primary concern with the menopause weight gain, is that, we have a body scanner in our office and we put you on and you see the health risk of your waist ratio, your abdominal to hip ratio, and your visceral fat and your body fat percentage. So to me, the BMI is outdated. It's not really about that. It's about your body composition. And the body scanner clearly shows you have an increased health risk if your waist ratio, so that weight around the middle, increases your risk of cardiovascular health. The GLP-1s have really been sort of, I think, the biggest thing to come out to help with menopause care, because they really work to make patients healthier by decreasing the visceral fat. And it makes your body work the way it should. The regular systems have stopped working, so it turns them on. And it's not, you still have to, all my patients have a nutrition plan, have an exercise plan. You still have to eat well and be mindful and exercise and get enough sleep. But you're finally getting results. Something's working. Just getting rid of the inflammation and the bloating is huge. It's a huge confidence booster. Again, I don't focus on it as a vanity drug in my practice. I focus on it as a health tool, but it has been the most powerful health tool, including hormone replacement therapy, that I've seen.
I will say, just from personal experience, when I started my perimenopause journey, I ended up not really realizing that I was on that journey. And then I started a GLP-1 just because I was having a really hard time. Mm-hmm. And I did have one of my doctors just say, look, you've done everything that you possibly can. Like, this is a solution for you. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I feel like some of my symptoms have gotten better with perimenopause. And absolutely. I also lost weight, right? But I used to have like the hot flashes. And this is just my personal experience. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I think that there's some benefits to it. Like, my hot flashes went away. Because I lost weight, I'm able to exercise more, rigorously, and I'm able to really be a little bit more in shape than I was in the past. And so there's so many and my blood work has been so much better. I used to have high cholesterol. I used to have all of these issues that, like, I looked at the blood work, I was like, who is this person? Like, that's not me. I don't, because I was eating well and I wasn't just gorging myself, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And all of a sudden, all of these things went back to normal for me. And so I felt, wait, this is really, so for me, I definitely echo what you're saying. And as a person who's actually on a GLP-1 and going through perimenopause, like, I'm like reaping the benefits that you're saying. And so I really appreciate you being such a proponent of it, because I do.
You're a proponent.
Yeah, I do think that some people are just like, I guess they're afraid of it. And I understand. But again, you're going to load up your body with ashwagandha and all of these crazy supplements. You have no idea what these things are. Right? Like, here, what these things are. And I'm not like downing ashwagandha. I'm sure it's great for other people. No. I'm just saying in general.
It's just a very personalized approach. And, everyone needs different dosing. You need to really listen to the person, see how they react, start slowly, go slowly. It's not, a one size fits all fix, but it's also interesting data with the combination of a GLP-1 and hormone replacement therapy that the results are even better, that they are working synergistically. So I'm really hoping that the stigma starts to come off of the GLP-1 and we really focus on this as a health tool. Again, not for everyone, but your body is changing. Your cholesterol literally doubles with menopause. And I don't know if people know about hemoglobin A1C. That's a lab value that tracks your blood sugar for a 3-month period. And many women have an elevated hemoglobin A1C all of a sudden on their blood work. Again, changing nothing. I mean, that's biology, that's chemistry, that is not your fault. And that's dangerous. You're then pre-diabetic and and your cholesterol's up. So your health is significantly impacted by menopause. And I think that that's not focused on enough. It's not even just about treating the symptoms. It's really being preventative for long-term health, cardiac health.
No, I mean, like everything that you're saying, I'm like, yes, say it. I really appreciate that. So listen, if people, don't have, well, first of all, like if, I live in Pennsylvania, you're very close to me. I'm thinking of just calling you separately just to have a conversation. But if people want to find you, if they are not getting the help that they are needing, if they are really just not sure what they're going through, how do they get a hold of you to be able to help them, through this journey?
My website, slannyc.com, SLANNYC.com, has a ton of information on there. And you can look at the email there. You can email me with questions. I do telehealth visits. And I can also give you a list of other doctors that are focused on this, because there are some good ones out there, but they're really too far and few in between. I was doing regular gynecology for 30 years, and my patients were aging with me. And, in the 15-minute or 10 minutes you have with your insurance slot of healthcare, you can't tackle it. You just can't tackle it. And people don't want to come back time and time again. So I started doing this as a side hustle after work, doing telehealth visits with people from all over the country, because people are desperate for information. And I was shocked at how many doctors aren't doing it. So I sympathize, and it's frustrating. It's part of why I'm doing things like this, to get the word out. You're not crazy, and you need to demand proper help. And it impacts not just your mental health, but your physical health, your marriage, your job, your parenting. It affects your whole life. And there is great help to be had, things that are standardized and FDA approved. I always encourage lifestyle measures too, drink enough water, get exercise, try to sleep. I mean, de-stress, easier said than done. It's a stressful time of life, but I think for everybody to know, it's not your fault. And it's not just the symptoms. It's also the health facts. So don't give up. Find resources. The Menopause Society has a list of doctors who are menopause trained in every state. There are resources out there. Not easy, unfortunately. I was shocked that I had to even do this, because there weren't enough people, even in New York City, doing it.
It's really shocking. It's such an unfortunate thing, but hopefully everybody will, if anything, just connect to your site and just get some help. And I really do appreciate you bringing this to light and really giving all this information. I think that a lot of people really do feel lost. And so giving them a little bit of hey, this is a light at the end of the tunnel and we can help you. And there's help and there's resources at your disposal. You just need to, definitely self-educate, but also advocate for yourself, and then just find the right partner. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And I really appreciate it. And we'll hopefully talk again soon.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed my conversation with Dr. McBride. I think everything that she shared with us today about the symptoms and the effects of perimenopause and us women wanting to be heard and how we should advocate for ourselves is really insightful. I definitely invite you to look up Dr. McBride and definitely look up the symptoms that she was describing and learn for yourself, self-educate, and of course, go advocate for yourself in your health and your perimenopause journey. Thank you so much for joining me. Join us again, where we will be visited by other experts in leading conversations, and you can join us from the Goat Up wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in to From the Goat Up. Please tune in to our biweekly episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, save, and share at Diona Skincare.